the right way of doing a selfless action is by not being attached to the results of action. And also he says that it's not just because you know everything, you are practicing everything, you can keep on changing other people by preaching. So you don't do that even when you are realized. You don't try to find faults with others and try to change others by preaching. You follow your path, and because everyone has their own time to change, because each one of them are acted by their own vasanas, they will change at the time they are supposed to change. So you keep on practicing and be a good example and let them follow. So he, being a very good psychological teacher, he gave the right kind of inputs and information to Arjuna. After that, he comes back and tells what is the exact formula that one has to use while doing the action. We saw that last week. So in the formula, we understood that there are three ways. The technique is simple. One is generate the energy, and second is avoid dissipations to have the generated energy back into your action. Just by generating the energy, we cannot complete our action if there is a lot of dissipation by either one of the channels that has been discussed here. So how do we generate energy? By dynamic action by the body and by the mind, having an ideal or goal in mind, and again focusing the thoughts on the self by the intellect. So when we use our body, mind and intellect in the right way, we will generate 100% of energy to be put into our action. And once the energy is generated, what we have to do? We have to understand at the point of acting, we should not be anxious for the fruits of action. What will happen? This anxiety will take away some of the energy that we generated. Second thing, worrying about the past. If there are any incidents or any circumstances that had led to failure, and if any of our past experiences were not good, that should not interfere in the present action. And again, excitement for the present. Over excitement of doing a little bit of excitement is okay, but over excitement to the present will again cloud your mind and again will not help you to function at your best. That's why the three channels of dissipation has to be taken care, where you are not very excited about the present, you are not worried about the past, and you are not anxious for the fruits of action. You can have a goal, you can have a dream. This is the formula that is given when you are doing a particular action. At the time you are on the action, this is what you have to follow. And again, with regards to worries of the past, we have understood that we are here to learn from our mistakes, past experiences, not to take the failures of the past and worry about it in the present actions. So always take every event of your life experience as a lesson, learn from it and grow from it. It's not to take them, worry about them, and also destroy the peace that you can get at the present time. And we also saw some videos about it. And this is the quote which I like. The best use of imagination is creativity. The worst use of imagination is anxiety. So you have the mind either to be creative or to make yourself anxious. The choice is ours. We can use our imagination to go between any of these extremes of creativity and anxiety. So let's come to the 31st verse. ये मे मतमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धावन्तो न सूयन्तः मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः. Here he says, those men who constantly practice these teachings of mine, full of shraddha and without cavilling, they too are liberated from actions. So what is Lord Krishna trying to say after giving the formula of right action? One he talks about is to have second line when you see Shraddha Vantona Suyantaha. So Shraddha is one thing that you need to have when you are performing the action on the principle in which you are working. And the second thing he says, Na Suyantaha, don't cavil, meaning you don't find faults or you don't have a disbelief. So you should respect what you are doing or what you are believing that you are going to do. When you have the Shraddha and perform the technique or use the technique without cavilling, you will be liberated. That is the second line. And first line he says that Ye me matamidam nityam. So matam here is a kind of doctrine or opinion. So the first question I have for all of you is, what do you think is the difference between Shraddha and belief? There is actually no equivalent in English that we can translate to an equal meaning of Shraddha, but Shraddha is equal or related to the English word faith. And there is another word in English which is belief. What do you think is the difference between faith and belief? What do you think is the difference?
Faith comes with some explanation or logical reasoning, and belief is just without any reason. You just believe it because you feel it. But
Okay.
faith is you see and then you trust that yes, this is correct and we can do it.
Okay. Just taking the simple example of belief in God. Hope everyone here have the belief in God or a higher power. So when we say I believe in God and when we say I have faith in God, what is the difference between the both? Anyway, we have not seen both. We have not seen God. We have not seen our higher powers. But how can we relate when we say we have belief in God and we have faith in God? How do the people act who are having belief or people who are having faith?
Faith is something with confidence, Abhi.
Okay. Any other opinions? Okay, let me explain you. A set of people or people who are having belief in God. They say, I believe God. And there are life experiences they encounter. And for that person, at least from the time he is believing in God, 10 times, 15 times, events occur which are not conducive to that person. Then that person says, I don't believe, or at that moment, at the time of failures, the person says, God is not there. This is all nothing. If he is there, he will not do like this to me. That is people believing in God. When you say faith or Shraddha, people having Shraddha in God or faith in God, in times of unconducive situations or in any kind of challenging situations, problematic situations, they still believe there is God and he will, or the higher powers will help the person glide through the difficult situations. So that is the difference between the belief and faith or Shraddha. That's why here Lord Krishna clearly mentions what is this you need to have on this principle of application is Shraddha, meaning suppose you embarked on applying this technique in all your actions. It will not come immediately because there are a lot of things that we need to correct from our side, particularly working with our mind. So you might not get that peace of mind immediately tomorrow, day after tomorrow, immediately after 1 year. Then if you don't have Shraddha, you'll come back and say, this is all bullshit. This is nothing. This formula doesn't work. Nothing works. Life is like this. I have to continue. But if you have embarked on this principle with Shraddha, you will not change your opinion at any point of time. You will have that rock solid confidence in what you have embarked on. That is very, very important in any kind of endeavor we are doing, not only in Hinduism. I think this faith is also popular, is also the foundation of all the religious practices. It could be Christianity, it could be Islam, it could be any other thing. But this forms a building block or the foundation. So what did he say to approach? Approach these teachings full of Shraddha and without cavilling. Without cavilling means any person who is practicing this technique should approach it with devotion. There should not be any disrespect. There should not be any kind of beliefs that this is not going to work or with any kind of doubts. So when there is Shraddha, there won't be cavilling. So it is like mutually understood. So these two are important to embark. If not, you will not be able to totally see the results of what has been preached. So these are just few quotations I felt good to be on faith. So Joel Goldsmith says, a belief in a thing which I do not know until I come to know what I believe in. And from Rabindranath Tagore, he says that faith is the bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. So hope you have understood the difference between faith and belief. So the Shraddha includes capacity of intellect to reflect upon the teachings, understand, assimilate, and make it your own. The ability to pursue it until it brings about a transformation in your personality and the knowledge metamorphosis into wisdom. So it is that unquavering belief or unquavering belief or faith that helps you to turn your knowledge into wisdom. If you are just believing and not having faith, what will happen in the course of your action if the results are not conducive, or if you feel that at that particular point of time things are not going the way you expected it to go, then you will not follow it further. So it is only the Shraddha or the faith that helps you to totally transform your knowledge into wisdom. And here he says in the first verse, he says, Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha. Mata here means opinion. Here, if you see, there are a lot of kinds of religious practices that was preached by a lot of saints, scholars, and lot of different kind of people from time to time we know. And each one had their own kind of prescription that they gave. Why did they give differently? Each one, whoever gave the religious preachings at that point of time, not only religious, but also any kind of philosophical preachings at that point of time, they understood the society at that point of time. They saw what are the weaknesses in the society, what are the strengths in the society, and what is needed for the society at that point of time. And based upon that, they formulated a kind of prescription for the application to that particular society at that point of time. That's why you see a lot of leaders. One says non-violence, one goes with violence, one says peace, one says other things. So everyone had a different kind of way to get the people onto the work to solve certain problems or to lead the way in certain life. We call it religion or we call it a preaching, whatever it could be. So that matas are just opinions. And what do you mean here by what Lord Krishna says, Eme matamidam nityam? He says that this is also a mata, which is an opinion. And opinions are not universal applications. And from this verse, what do we take it as universal application is, this part of the thing is a karma yoga. This is for people who are actors in the world of materialistic life. This is not for the people who are embarked on the path of renunciation, the people who are jnana yogis, and other set of people who are not actively involved in action. So this is a claim. This is not a universal application because this karma yoga is for the sect of people who are on the path of spiritual development in the materialistic life. And that's why it is a mata. Nitya is a consistent practice. So it's like dharma. So nitya are the practices which are consistent and universally applicable. That's why he says that this formula is a mata, is a doctrine of philosophy, which is applied to a certain set of people who are active workers in the world. They can take this, apply this principle and work in the world for which they will see the results. And based upon this, we can also see that what we dwell upon is who we become. So when we see some principle, now today we saw this principle of karma yoga. How does that thought process go? What do we think? What do we get from this? So what we think is what we create, what you feel is what you attract, and what you imagine, you become. This is the common universal law of attraction. When you see something, do you feel like criticizing it? When you feel something, when you see something, it's not something means not just a word of text. It is in general, what are you habituated for? That comes every moment. So your mind would have gone through a rewiring process. You will have certain habits. And when we practice those habits day in and day out, what happens? We become an expert in that. For no reason, we will be able to display that habit. It could be getting anger. It could be finding faults with others. It could be being generous. It could be compassionate, either good qualities or bad qualities. Whatever we practice on daily basis, what we practice is what we become good at. Once we become good at, we become experts in it. So it is our choice of what we choose to practice. I'll just play a small audio.
So my question to you today is, what do you practice every day?
Are you able to listen? Are you able to listen?
No, Abhi.
You're
No,
not able
Abhi.
to listen?
No.
Okay.
What do you
Now?
Yeah, just now we heard one word.
Okay.
practice?
What do
Because
you?
what you practice, you will get good at. What do you practice? Do you practice joy in your life? Do you practice peace in your life? Do you practice happiness in your life? Or do you practice a lot of complaining? Because if you complain, you will get very good at it. And you will get so good at it that you will find fault with everything. Even when there's no fault that a layman cannot see, you, being an expert, will see it. What do you practice? Do you practice anger? Because if you practice anger, you will get very good at it. And you will get so good at it that the most trivial you'll think. Trivial thing will make you angry. Like sitting in an airplane and watching the sea cross from you somehow looks better than the one you've been given. And that is so unfair of the airlines. What do you practice? Do you practice being worried? Because if you practice being worried, you will get very good at it. And you will get so good at it that everything will worry you, including the buffalo you don't have. So I propose, if this is true that it's a question of practice, then I propose you practice joy.
So what did you understand? Is it true or not first?
Yes, it's very much true, Abhi.
So we have to be very mindful about what we practice. If you practice things slowly, without our knowledge, and when we reflect upon things that are happening in our life and look back, we really don't know why we are behaving in certain way. But the thing is, we pick up a certain trait and dwell upon that for a long time, that it becomes a spiral, it becomes a habit. And as the small boy explained, we become so good at it and we become experts at it. So in such a way that we really don't know that why are we worrying? Why are we getting angry on trivial things? And why are we becoming restless on things that could be perceived in a different way? It's just because we have been dwelling upon it for a long time. And how to become successful with this law of attraction? Because this is all coming because of law of attraction. You think you're manifesting, you think you're manifesting, your worries, your anxieties are all coming true. Even though your goal, your dream is something different, but you're not working towards the dream as per the laws of universe. You are working in the opposite direction with your dreams. All of us don't want to get COVID. All of us don't want to get kind of any kind of bad diseases or endemics or pandemics. But what are we doing? We dream or we wish that we should not get that. But knowing the universal laws of nature or universal laws, are we tuning our minds in the way we achieve what we dream? Most of us not, because the moment we hear about anything, we create a loop of anxieties, self-doubts, lot of negative thought process, which will make the event happen. Even though our goal or we dream not to happen, it is our own thought process, our own frequencies with which we are vibrating is bringing us that experience. So first thing is to stop relying on the luck and focusing on what you truly want. You focus, you write down, or you have it in your mind very strongly what you want. After that, you have to plan and take action, because without action, there is nothing that will happen. Even though you are very much positive in your mind, you are not at all having any kind of negative traits in your mind, but still nothing will work if you don't abide by the law of action. So you have to take the action, and after taking the action and before taking the action, strongly visualize your results, what you want. That this is after taking, not again in the time of doing the action. After you have done with your action, and at least before you start embark upon your action, visualize again what is the thing that makes your visualization come true. It's again the belief. Your subconscious mind works on the principle of belief. So it is again the same Shraddha, same faith and belief. It's not just belief, but it's the faith that makes things work. And then practice positive affirmations. Don't take your mind into the negative loops or negative self-doubts. Again, be grateful to whatever happens about the events. First thing, be grateful, and then try to meditate, means try to reflect upon your experiences and take again the next experience of your life. This is just at least some practical tips that we can follow on daily basis and see if the experiences are changing by changing our thoughts, by changing our emotions, and by closely abiding to the universal laws. So encouragement, as in this verse it says, don't criticize. Cavilling is criticizing. Don't criticize the principle. Because encourage it. Encouragement in any ways leads to development. So appreciation in any ways leads to gratitude. So you start appreciating things, whatever you have or whatever you are blessed with. Slowly, this act of gratitude will transform your life to witness miracles in your life. The single thing, if you practice every day, within 5 to 6 months, you can see the chemistry of your body changing, lot of physical wellness and mental wellness happening because of your peace of mind you get when you start displaying attitude or resonating with the act of gratitude in all walks of your life. So clear with this verse, what Lord Krishna is trying to say?
Yes, Abhi.
So we will go to the next verse and see what is being said. Ye tve tadabhyasuyantah nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudhanstan viddinashtana chetasah. He's saying, but those who crap at these teachings of mine and do not practice it, deluded in all knowledge and senseless, know them to be ruin. First, he said, people who are practicing, all the practitioners, what they have to have. Here also he's clearly saying it is matam. So this doctrine, whichever people who are in the path of karma yoga are taking it and acting, if they act with shraddha, without complaining, with devotion, they will be liberated. And in this verse, what he is saying, but people who crap at these teachings of mine and do not practice it, deluded in all knowledge and senseless, know them to be ruined. So if you do not follow this, who crap the techniques and do not follow, like in ignorance, they are lost in delusion. This is not something, a statement said by Lord Krishna. This is the law, because knowing the law of cause and effect and law of universe, how it works, if you are crapping at something which makes sense and not following it, then you will never develop in any walk of your life. So this technique must be learned from an early age to contact the world and lead a stress-free life. That's why in olden days, when we go to Gurukul or when the students are set to the ashramas to learn, this is the first thing that they learn there, because without this mindset, you cannot come and face the challenges of life. Now, this generation kids are still more in a more situation which is prone that they take everything as stress because they are not ready. Their mind is not ready to face the challenges of life, the struggles, the ways, the things that we saw in our childhood. They don't have it. For them, everything is bed of roses. Everything is something that they get for without any kind of issues. Their perceptions towards things are totally different. So that kind of perceptions makes them susceptible to stress very easily, because they don't know adjustments, they don't know struggles, they don't have endurance. All these things are lacking. And that's why they cannot come out of the world. When they come into the world and face a small expectation loss, or if they have something in mind and that doesn't happen, they cannot take it. And that's why if you see the people, the students at small ages going into depressions, going into suicidal attempts, the thought of the mind getting to a state, not able to face a situation in life and thinking that the solution for this is end of my life. Just if I give up my life, everything will get ended. That is the way the wiring is happening. Because of various, we cannot just blame one or the other. Because of various circumstances, various parameters, their mind is wired in such a way. That's why these kind of practices, these kind of teachings should be given to the kids from an early age, as how they can face the challenges, meet with the challenges in the life, and how they can flow along the currents of the life without resistance. Going to the next verse. Sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha prakritirjnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even a man of knowledge acts in accordance with his own nature. Beings follow their nature. What can restrain do? Again, he himself is giving one statement. He's saying, Sadrusam chestate swasyaha. Every man who are having knowledge still acts according to their gunas, according to their vasanas. We all know we are bound with vasanas. We are the product of the past. And the present actions determine what we will be in the future. So the product is already here in the present life. And what is the reason for this product to be like this? It is because of your past actions, past vasanas, or whatever it is. So we are the product of the past who are in present. And what will determine what this product will be in future? It is the current actions that we take. We have a lot of influence of the product that we have, that we are now. And what we have to do, if that product vasanas are not conducive to us for our spiritual growth, for our upliftment in this life, we have to fight with the vasanas to change them, to act against them, and to rewire them so that we can change the vasana and get a desire which is conducive to our growth. But that is very difficult. Why? Every man is bound with Prakriti and his own nature. He acts. And what can a restraint do? Restraint is, we call it as like Dhamma. Dhamma is a quality of being restrained. Self-restraint is what he is saying as Nigraham, the self-restraint quality in you. What will it do when your vasanas are so powerful and so thing? This is the question he is again posing to Arjuna. We can take a general example of the difference between why he is bringing up this as a question here is because there is a time in between knowledge gets transformed to wisdom. Now I am telling things. This is all knowledge. This might seem challenging for someone. This might seem interesting for someone. This might seem crap for someone. Whatever it is a knowledge. When will you experience this? When will you see the transformation from this is when you reflect upon this, move forward. Every day you experiment with the knowledge and turn that knowledge into experience. That is when it becomes a wisdom. Just with knowledge, you cannot see changes. So knowledge, when becomes wisdom, you will be able to see the changes. And particularly taking this path of Karma Yoga, when you want to transform your actions into spiritual actions, following these principles. And why are we following the path of Karma Yoga? First basic thing is to get peace of mind and efficiency in work. To get both productivity and prosperity is what we are trying to do Karma Yoga. The other spiritual second level is our own journey. But in the materialistic world, when we do Karma Yoga, we get both efficiency as well as peace of mind. But there could be, like now you can start doing Karma Yoga, or you might start practicing the principles of what is being said in Bhagavad Gita. You might try it for 2 months, you might try it for 3 months, and still sometimes you might not even feel a single change happening, or you might not even see a single change. So at that time, you might think that this is always. So that's why he is pointing out here. For the change to happen, Arjuna, it takes time. Change is not very easy because it is fighting against your own vasanas. And how deep rooted the vasanas are, it again depends from person to person. And again, how much willpower you are displaying to fight against your own vasana, again that depends from person to person. So you don't think today I got the technique from Lord Krishna, tomorrow I'll be a person with peace of mind as well as efficiency. Be very careful and try to progress with keeping this point in mind, that until the knowledge becomes wisdom, you are not going to see the change. That is what in Jnana Yoga we learned. We have Shravanam, we have Manana and Nididhyasana, which finally becomes Jnana or wisdom. So Shravanam is what I am talking to you today. So this is all with my inputs, my sharing sessions, you are doing a Shravanam part of Jnana Yoga. By Shravanam, what do you get? You get knowledge. Then what you have to do, Mananam, means reflect. Okay, how can I apply this to myself? Where do I fit in this? What aspect of me can I change? That is Mananam. After Mananam, you have to do Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam means contemplation or experimentation, trying to take this and applying in your activities, in your actions, and seeing. And when you apply it in your actions, you will see the results. And by constantly applying this, it will become a part of your experience. When you experience the change, then it becomes your wisdom. Once it becomes your wisdom, you will start seeing the changes. But there is a gap when your knowledge transforms to wisdom. That's why the tagline for my sharing sessions also is to learn Gita to live Gita. If you just by learning Gita, you are not going to change or get any change in your life. It's just that you come here for this 1 hour to listen. But only by living the Gita way, you will see the changes and you will see the experiences. That's why always your knowledge has to transform into wisdom. So knowledge, then understand, reflect, and transform into wisdom. Knowledge comes from learning. Wisdom comes from living. If you don't live the way you learn, then you will not be able to appreciate the knowledge. Sometimes you might even criticize the knowledge because it's not working the way, because you were not able to continue the way to live with it. So knowledge remains useless unless you digest it, assimilate it, and make it your own. So assimilation of knowledge is what is called reflection. That's what I told you, the 4 stages of Jnana Yoga: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, and Jnanam. By careful thinking, analysis, and contemplation, knowledge seeps in and personality absorbs it, and it becomes a part of you. Knowledge metamorphoses into wisdom. This is what we are looking at. And when knowledge metamorphoses into wisdom, that is when you will really say, this principle is working for me. Until the time, that's the reason he wants. There is a time period where you are still know the knowledge, but still not have experienced the knowledge. In between that time, you need to have the self-restraint. Even sometimes by having self-restraint, it might not act because you have not completely experienced the knowledge. And the self-restraint depends again based upon your own vasanas, how strong they are. For example, take a MD doctor who is a liver specialist. He is a drunkard. He drinks himself. So what is the thing here? He is an MD in medicine, but he has knowledge, but he has not turned his knowledge into wisdom. He just preaches people not to drink, but he himself cannot restrain himself from drinking, and he himself ends up in being or getting liver diseases. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have knowledge. He's ignorant about why this disease is coming. He knows everything, just that he has not applied what he has learned to himself. There are a lot of things in this world where knowledge is used for preaching without practicing, but that's not going to work. So he's again cautioning the importance of practicing the knowledge that is being gained. Any questions in this? Okay, I'll continue with the next verse. Indriyasyarte ragadveshau vyavastitau tayornavashamagachet tauhasya paripanktinau. He's again saying here, attachment and aversion for the objects of the senses abide in the senses. Let none come under the dominion of these two, for they are one's enemies. His aversion and attachment, raga, dvesha. We have seen this even in second chapter at many times in the Sthita Prajna verses also. And here raga is not just a normal attachment, but a very strong attachment. Same way, dvesha is not just hatred, it is a deep-rooted hatred. And when we see our actions, we have discussed many times, what is the reason for doing a particular thing? Most of the time, we end up with the mind-driven actions. It would be propelled either by likes or dislikes. For example, a person who doesn't like bitter gourd, but it acts as a medicine for his health due to some condition. Suppose the person is supposed to take a bitter gourd, which is good for his health. The person still doesn't eat it because he still is being driven by his mind with a feeling that it tastes bitter and I don't like the taste, so I am not going to eat. So from the childhood, we are fed with likes and dislikes. Every activity you take, we are not only doing actions with likes and dislikes. What will happen? We will again be fed in the sense like if you do something and if a set of people like the thing that you do, they say, yeah, it is good. It is good. Yeah, you are liking it. No, that is very good. Another set of people might be there with a different opinion who support our likes or support our dislikes. So we will become so much conditioned that we have a strong set of likes and dislikes, strong programming of likes and dislikes in our subconscious mind. For every action that we want to take, immediately when we see any kind of objects, our sense goes and perceives that object. The first thing from our subconscious mind comes is the likes and dislikes that we have set on particular object, thing, person. That propels us to take our decisions, not our intellect. So he's warning, you don't get swayed away under the domination of your sways between your likes and dislikes. You have the power to control your senses through your intellect. The hierarchy, if you see, first thing that we contact is our senses, the five senses. The five senses see the sense objects and they get registered in the mind. So the first level of thing that we need to have, the first level of restraint we need to have, control we need to have is the senses level. The next level is the mind level. The next level, the higher hierarchy above the mind is your intellect. Your intellect is, your mind can control your senses, your intellect can control your mind. And intellect is controlled by the higher of yourself, which is the divinity within you. So when the intellect is more capable to control your mind, you use that power and don't come into the sways of likes and dislikes. But what do we think generally? What is causing that likes and dislikes? We generally think it is the object. I just don't like bitter gourd. But there might be a person who is liking bitter gourd and there is a person who doesn't like bitter gourd. So is the bitter gourd causing the like or dislike? Certainly not. It's not the sense objects that is causing the feeling of like and dislike. It is your relationship with that object that is causing likes and dislikes. So from where the likes and dislikes can be controlled is from within your mind, because it is not coming from the object. But generally what we think, it's like that. I don't know the reason, but I don't like that. I don't like that person, or I don't like that thing. Lot of conditioning would have happened in our mind till now when we go back and see. And what is the feed that is given? Because the subconscious mind programming of our likes and dislikes. So he's clearly saying to Arjuna, don't come, Arjuna, please don't come into the sway of this likes and dislikes. Vasham is coming under the sway. Don't come under the sway of this, because they are your enemies. We have seen a similar verse in second chapter in Sthita Prajna. If I remember correctly, it's 64th verse, I think. There, the Lord Krishna clearly says, Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Indriya, Manasai Indriya Charan, Atma Vashay Videyatma, Prasada Madi Gachati. Meaning, you have to seclude yourself or stay away from yourself from the Raga Dvesha. Viyukta is to keep away from the Raga Dvesha in propelling your actions. And that is the way you will see the road to success, or sorry, road to peace. Prasada Madi Gachati. You will see the road to peace. Similar kind of thing he's saying. These two are your enemies, Raga and Dvesha. So what causes likes and dislikes? Is it the external person or is it our own mind? We think it is the external object that is causing, but it is actually our own mind, our relationship with that object or a person, our perception, lot of conditioning that has happened that creates likes or dislikes. And this one also I think we have seen many times as how first thing we develop a thought, from the thought we develop a desire. When the desire is unchecked, it transforms into an attachment, that is the raga. When that thickness increases of the desire, it becomes an attachment. When the desires and attachments are left unchecked, our mind will be restless and agitated. So we are supposed to take a middle path where we use the intelligence. Even though we enjoy everything, we have to use the intelligence in taking our actions. When we use intellect, we are mastering or getting mastering over our sense objects, because intellect is a rational thing that controls your mind and will not be swayed away with the whims and fancies of the mind. When your mind is under control, sense objects are under control. So the hierarchy is followed. So always try to see you propel your actions with your intellect so that you don't get swayed with the forces of your likes and dislikes. So it's not about total abstinence or it's not about indiscriminate indulgence. It's about going on a middle path, knowing where to start, where to stop for your own benefit, for your own progress. So likes and dislikes becomes the forces in determining the course of life, are the greatest enemies. Actions should be based on intellectual discrimination rather than our emotional feeling. So do not allow the mind to indulge in relieving the pleasures or sorrows. Any questions in this verse? This verse we have discussed again in second chapter, particularly about these ragas and dveshas. It is something that we all need to work upon whenever we are doing our actions, to keep in mind that whether the action is propelled because of the likes and dislikes, which is like driven by the mind, or is it driven by the intellect? In other words, are we taking the path of pleasure or are we taking the path of good? The path of pleasure always settles for instant gratification, whereas the path of good always works on the principle of short-term pain for long-term gain. So continuing with the next verse, Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Better is Swadharma, through devoid of merit, than Paradharma, well discharged. Better is death in Swadharma. Paradharma is than Paradharma fought in fear. So why this question, or why this discussion about Swadharma is coming? The question of Arjuna, to fight or not to fight. Again, second chapter we had discussed about the importance of Swadharma. Now he is again bringing it a deeper into the level, saying that better is Swadharma always. Shreyaha is better, good for your life. What is good? Practicing your Swadharma, practicing your own duties through devoid of merit. So while performing your own duties, what comes to you as a result is not really something that that gives happiness. The same thing when we see about Swadharma from the Japanese side, they call it as ikigai, if you have heard about it. So ikigai is the factor of within you, or the which they call it as a purpose of life. So when you do activities which are aligned to your purpose of life, you will get that internal pleasure, and that gives you a lot of good feeling for a long time. And they say ikigai is the main reason for all the centenarians there who lead their lives beyond 100 years. One thing they find common among all the people of Japanese who are living above 100 years, particularly in one village called Okinawa, when the book was written based upon that village, which is called the village of longevity, where they find a lot of people living above 100 years. The main thing they see among every person is person finding out what their ikigai is and working towards their ikigai. That is the same thing here as the Swadharma is the same thing as what is your nature. Some people feel internally happy. How do we know this? When you do a particular thing, you will get a sense of contentment and enjoyment. You earn for it, you don't earn for it, nothing matters. But just doing that particular activity gives you that contentment and fulfillment. That activity is your ikigai or your Swadharma. That's why Swadharma is something that here the Swadharma that Lord Krishna is talking about is as per the duty Arjuna is bound to do, which is being a Kshatriya, his duty is to fight. So that is the basic Swadharma he is talking about here. The Paradharma is going to the mountains and becoming a monk. So even though Swadharma is difficult, it is more Shreyaha, it is more better for you rather than doing the duty of another, which is your duty is not to become a monk. Rather than doing a monk, even though that can be discharged quite easily. And finally, he concludes, better is death. So even though you die doing your Swadharma, it is far better than going away, running away, and doing someone else's duty. So his question was about to fight or not to fight. It's far better to perform one's natural prescribed duty though tinged with faults, than to perform another's prescribed duty through perfectly. In fact, it is preferable to die in the discharge of one's duty than to follow the path of another, which is fraught with danger. So this is the cycle that I have put to make you understand. So what happens when we do Swadharma? This whole is the principle of Karma Yoga. I'll just see the time if I can explain. I think I cannot explain this completely. So I will take it in the next class to discuss this part